Hello and welcome to the Art Podcast with me, Chris Stafford. My guest this week is the American Trompe artist Natalie Featherston, who discovered her love for painting by accident in the early 1990s after moving to New York City to pursue her master's degree in music. And although she enjoyed making music, she wanted to do something more creative and unique, something that was altogether hers. What inspires me, she says, is the creative voice, whimsy, and humor Trompe l'oeil allows the artist to express. Unlike portraits or landscapes, still life doesn't simply exist around us. You have to build the stage for the painting, selecting the color and textures. Natalie, welcome to the Art Podcast.
Hi, thank you, Chris. Thanks so much for having me on.
Now, does that pretty much sum up where you are with your art? Do you still wake up every day thinking, okay, this is my universe?
Yeah, I'm very immersed in it. That is just that I'm like a one-trick pony. That is about all I do is work and paint and think about painting. And yeah, that's yes.
Well, the music is also a big piece of you too, or was at least. I mean, you're a cellist.
I was a cellist, very
It's a
past
past,
tense.
very past tense, is it now? Because you have performed even at places like Carnegie Hall, so it was no small
Mhm.
thing. It was a significant part of your life.
Oh no, I was very, very serious about it. Well into my 20s. And it's now I kind of look back at it. It was a very foundation thing for me. I think it really colored a lot of my adult life and choices that I've made as an adult because I started playing the cello when I was around 6 years old. I left home when I was 15 to go to performing arts high school. I mean, I was very, very serious about it. I mean, that's what I thought was going to be the career for the rest of my life.
That really was a serious
Mhm.
and clearly thought out pathway. Then it sounded
Oh
like
yeah.
a lifelong pathway. Potentially could have been.
It could have been. And I moved to New York to do my master's degree and at music performance at the Manhattan School of Music and just kind of had an epiphany where I was like, it was in my early 20s. It was all I had ever done was play the cello. I mean, just pretty much. And I was like, wow, you know what? I don't remember choosing this. Like I remember having success with it and following it because of that. When we have success with something that's very validating and we tend to want to follow it, chase that. But I just kind of realized I'd never really made that choice and that I was looking at spending the rest of my life sitting in an orchestra, which is not bad. And I have a lot of friends that did that are professional musicians, but I was like, wow, maybe I should broaden my horizons and think this over. And I kind of thought, you know what, I'm going to take some time off. I felt very burned out. I'd never really done much besides play the cello. So I just dropped out of my master's program. My parents freaked out. They're like, oh my God, you've moved to New York City. You're doing drugs. It's like that kind of a thing. Um, and I just thought I would take an art class. Like it was that simple. I went and got a job waiting tables. I'm like, I'm going to take some art classes that looks interesting to me. And just my whole life pivoted.
Where did the musical background come from?
Completely me. I mean, I cannot blame this. I know this is the craziest story, but I grew up in the South in North Carolina, and we were like in grade school, it was very much they were grooming children for like the band and the orchestra program way down the line. So they would go around to the elementary school and they would, demonstrate different instruments. And I was like, oh, well, I want to play the flute, just like all little girls want to play the flute. Well, they had like 86 flute players and no cellists. And I put cello as my alternate. I'm like, I want to play the flute or the cello. And the band director was like, looked at me, goes, well, let me see your teeth. And I'm like, and he's like, oh no, you're going to have braces. You should play the cello because there were no cellists. So like completely by default, but I mean, I did love the cello. I mean, it's a beautiful instrument. It's very resonant. It's very low. It mimics the human voice and its range. It was a beautiful instrument. But yeah, I kind of like defaulted into that.
That's so interesting, their selection process too.
I think I was a little scared. It was a little biased. I don't think that was like completely above board, but yeah.
So you started very young, you said at 6 years old. So what were your parents thinking then? were they guiding you down there, or did that?
No, no. I mean, they did not have, my mother played piano when she was a little girl, but like no one was a musician. No one was an artist. They were always very encouraging of me doing that. And I think like they kind of recognized even when I was little, I was a little outside the box in my family. I mean, I was a little extra compared to the other children. But they were really supportive. They were like, well, if that's what you want to do, like we will help you do that. So, I mean, there were a lot of cello lessons and driving to concerts. And like, I mean, you can imagine, right? It's like lots of things that parents get involved in with their kids. But yeah, they always were there to help and support and like make that happen for me.
And how about your sister Edith? Now, was she that way inclined? Was she, a musician?
No,
No.
she did play the cello for a little while, I think because I was the big sister. And then I think she realized that she was going to have to practice, and I don't think that was very attractive to her. She was like, I don't think this is for me. Yeah, I mean, she's very crafty,
Mhm.
she likes to like decorate and do floral arranging and stuff like that. She's really good at, she definitely has a crafty gene. But fine art's probably not really her bag.
Tell me a little bit about your parents. They're both passed now, Jeanette and Riley.
Yeah.
How close were you to each of those parents? And did you have a favorite that you did hang out with and do,
Yeah, I
social
was
stuff
really
with?
close with my mom. Yeah, not so much my dad. He had a lot of other interests like playing golf and doing stuff like that, which like our Venn diagrams didn't overlap much with that. So I was really close with my mom, and I lost both my parents when I was in my early 30s. So, they've been gone a while. So, and that was really hard at first. I lost my mom first. She had had a chronic illness most of her life, so that was hard. It's like that was always sort of a thing, that I don't want to say defined her, but that was always something that had to be navigated, was she had rheumatoid arthritis very severely from the time she was like, gosh, I think in her 20s. So, she was a case study at Duke. I mean, like the whole thing, it was really bad. So, she always kind of had that to have to, it was a big challenge. She always had to deal with that. So, and this was a long time ago. I'm old. So, the things that they had back then to treat rheumatoid arthritis were very bad and very toxic. And so, that really took a toll on her. And she died when she was 60.
Mm.
Yeah, I know. Let me just bring down the tone right from the start. But yeah,
Well, you were
so it's hard.
born in Raleigh, North Carolina in 1969.
Mhm.
What was Raleigh like in those days when you were a kid?
Oh my God, I thought it was so awful and so boring. And I could not wait to get the hell out of Raleigh, North Carolina, which is hilarious because now I'm back in North Carolina. I just moved back here like 6 months ago. I spent my whole life in the Northeast and now I'm back. But and I see the value actually now as an adult. I'm like, wow, Raleigh's really nice. But yeah, I just thought I did not like the South and I wanted to leave as soon as possible. So yeah, my thoughts have changed on that a little bit. But I mean,
What were you rebelling against?
I was so bored. Oh my God, I was so bored. And like for me, being bored is very dangerous. You know, I mentioned I got to go to the School of the Arts when I was 15 and leave home, and that was awesome for me because now all of a sudden I was not bored. I was not in public high school anymore with like my townie friends, trying to like score beer on the weekends and drive around in cars, and like that was a good move. I think my parents were a little like, we're not so sure that you are grown up enough to go live on your own in a college environment because like I didn't make the best decisions as a teenager. But it was a good move in hindsight. Just giving me a job, giving me something to do. So I was engaged was smart.
What were your worst teenage decisions then, Natalie?
Oh my God, there's so many. I don't know how I'm not dead or have like a record, honestly, or living in a trailer park. This could have gone so many other ways, really. I did some bad things. Yeah.
Paint us a picture.
Um, well, at one point, I took my parents' car keys and went and had copies made to all the cars. So I had my own set. And I would sneak out of the house in the middle of the night and drive the cars around and smoke cigarettes. And like, I was probably like 13, 14. like that could have ended up really bad. So yeah,
What was triggering that rebellion?
boredom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I just, I didn't love, I think like I loved being surrounded by art and artsy people and culture. And even at a very young age, it felt kind of stifling to me a little bit being in the South. It's just kind of like the politics and the religion. And even when I was a little kid, I'm like, I don't think this is a good fit for me. So yeah, I think it was a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yes, it's a certain culture, isn't it, down there? And religion does play a big part of it. Where did it
It
fit into
does.
your life?
Well, my parents were very Christian, very kind of like, I wouldn't say fundamentalist, but very church going, very, very much towed that line. And I think that that was also another point of rebellion for me as a kid. As an adult, I can look at that and I can see the role that religion plays in people's lives and why they embrace that and how they can grow from that. And I have a totally different perspective, but I think when I was a kid, I was like, ugh. This is not for me. So, yeah.
Were you made to go to church?
Oh,
Why?
yes. Yes, I was. So that was another thing that I didn't have to do once I left home. I didn't have to do that either.
Did that include singing in the choir?
I did sing in the choir, I think. Well, I, I don't, I used to play with the choir. Like they would like, would play along. I remember playing before the services, playing like cello suites and that kind of thing. Like I did get drug out on stage quite a bit now that I think back. And I always had to play like, during Easter and Christmas, you're playing like Handel's Messiah, you're playing the Requiems, you're doing the Hallelujah chorus, like a lot of like very, yeah, I did a lot of that.
Were
But
you
I would not paint myself as like a preacher's kid, church going kid at all. I mean, it was sort of just something I got drugged to. Yeah.
were you playing pranks whilst you were at
No,
that age in the
say
choir?
no,
Yeah.
no. I mean, I behaved pretty much. I didn't do anything like that clever. I think if I got drug, I went. I
Was this
wasn't
on
like,
your own and or with your sister Edith?
gosh, I don't remember. I don't think Edith did any of that. I don't know if Edith sang in the choir or not. I'll have to check. I will check back I'll circle back on that. I don't know the answer to that one.
But the music then, obviously, you were spending a lot of time practicing too, with the cello. But what else were you doing? Were you into sports or other arts in school?
No, not really. I mean, like I enjoyed painting or like, like drawing and doing stuff like that. I mean, I always did. And I think I took some art lessons at like the mall. I think I kind of remember that briefly. Um, but yeah, I was pretty focused on playing the cello. Because, as a little kid, you're taking lessons, you're playing in lots of orchestras, you're doing concerts, you're always practicing for the next show, the next thing that you have going. So it can be very busy, very encompassing.
And you mentioned to me that you didn't really have any artists in the family necessarily. You seem to be a pioneer both of the music and the arts, but your grandmother had a hand in some artwork you discovered.
I found an old painting of hers or that she signed, question mark. We don't know. Um, I don't even know where it turned up. I think she had died, and my father went out to collect some of her belongings. I don't know where it came from. She signed it. It was a small, sort of imaginative landscape. And the really funny thing is, it was old. I mean, it looks like maybe it was painted in the 50s or the 60s, and the back of it was that old paper, and somebody put masking tape on it. And in my work, I do trompe and one thing that I love to paint are inversos. I just finished one this week where you paint the back of the canvas. Like that's the painting. The joke is that it's turned to the wall, which is very, very old. They've been doing those for hundreds of years. I didn't come up with that. That's a very classic um, theme. But I've used that painting of hers for several paintings where I've actually flipped it around and painted the back of it because it has like the perfect old yellow masking tape. It's amazing. So like I look at it all the time. It is wrapped in bubble wrap in its own special box to preserve it. So yeah, so I'm still we're still communing that way. But as far as I know, that is the only artist in the family. I mean, my dad liked to like whittle or carve wood, that kind of stuff, but I don't think anybody would say that I come from a long line of artists or that anybody thought that was a good idea. Like, so yeah.
Was your mother into things like knitting and sewing and being crafty in the house?
She did knit. She knit. She used to love to knit and she would make Christmas ornaments, things like that. Her arthritis got to the point where she couldn't really do that anymore. But she did enjoy doing that. Yeah, I remember her knitting. I remember her trying to teach me how to knit.
It doesn't
Yeah,
sound as if you're doing that now.
I am not knitting. But you know, it's weird. I used to love to do embroidery when I was a little kid. And I still use that now in my work. I will embroider photographs or use embroidery or thread. And that's something that I do a lot when I'm building I paint from life. So I build all of my models. Like they're actually set up in the studio that I paint from. And I love doing embroidery, like including that, because I also think that that kind of goes to like women's work and gender and some of the stereotypes about embroidery. It's kind of, I don't have like really super clear thoughts on that, but that's something that I've always really enjoyed using. Yeah.
So it was school then that offered you an awakening in the art world, so to speak,
Oh, yeah.
and art. But prior to that, were your parents taking you to galleries or museums or showing you art at all, introducing you to art?
Nope.
No. So school was it for you then? And so what were your first impressions and first inspirations then?
Oh, man. School of the Arts was amazing because they had everything from junior high school through a master's degree. And
And
it
this was in
was,
New York.
no, this was in North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
This was in
First, yeah.
Winston-Salem.
Okay.
Yeah, it was modeled after the Juilliard pre-college program in New York City. So like kids would come from all over to go to the high school program there. It wasn't just for North Carolina, it was an international school. Like people came from everywhere. It was very competitive to get into, but they had, you know, dance, drama, visual arts, music. I mean, it was the design and production. Their design and production like is supposed to be one of the best in the country. So, you know, all of a sudden I go from like Raleigh to like being immersed with all these creative people, all these creative kids, and there's like art shows and music shows and dance. I mean, it was incredible. It was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Like very stimulating. It sounds as if you have the mind that needs that stimulation.
I am like a border collie. I need something to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. We need to keep throwing you a ball or something. Just keep you.
I don't do good board. Board is not a good look on me. Yeah.
Okay. So, what kind of student were you then in college? You know, if you were you highly social as well?
Um, yeah, I mean, yes. You know, I mean, I believe it or not, I'm actually pretty introverted. I'm like not somebody that necessarily goes up to strangers at a party and introduces myself. I'm not really like that. I'm pretty good like once I meet people. But yeah, I was a good student. I mean, I think I have that like type A high achieving gene, you know, where it's like that's important to me, like to do my best and like, you know, that's I was a pretty good student. I took it seriously.
Yeah. And socially,
Yeah.
what were the vibes? What music were you listening to? What were you doing off campus?
Oh, probably drinking and doing what most children do, you know, in college. I mean, I was well younger than that, but yeah, you know, I mean, it was fun. I mean, I met so many interesting people that had so many varied tastes. You know, it's like I remember one of my girlfriends, who became a very good friend of mine, who was also a cellist who lived in my dorm. I'd never heard the Beatles. Like I didn't know about the Beatles. You know, it's like stuff like that. So it's like it was interesting, you know, just kind of exposing me to like all different kinds of music and poetry and different art, you know. It's like I didn't the way they had that school set up, you couldn't like I couldn't go take art classes because I was in the music school. So there was no exchange or you didn't get to do that. But, you know, I lived and knew all these kids that were visual artists, you know, and just seeing their work and their influences. And, you know, it's like the first time I ever saw like Salvador Dali's work in a book. It was like, oh my God, you know. So I like had to go and get a poster for my dorm room. So,
So you were triggered by some artists then, who
oh
were in your
yeah.
head. Yeah.
I mean, I always, even when I moved to New York and I started taking art classes, I knew I liked realism. I didn't know what I liked. I mean, I mean, you talk about a tabla rasa, I knew nothing. You know, I mean, it's like I didn't have this life going to museums and learning about art and knowing about it. I mean, I was like complete blank slate, probably in my mid 20s, but I knew right away that I liked realism because, like, for example, Salvador Dali, which is weird, like, probably a lot of people wouldn't think I love his work. I do. I love surrealism. I love that level of creativity and imagination because I don't really have that in my work, right? Like my imagination or creativity is setting up the model. It's kind of conceiving of the model. The painting is kind of a chore. It's that's not the creative part for me. So when I look at somebody that can do surrealism, somebody that can just make that up out of their heads, that's amazing to me. But early on, I had seen a basket of bread that he had painted, which it had to do with the giant painting he did of Christ in perspective, which is amazing. And I actually got to see both of those paintings at his museum in Spain 2 years ago. Yeah, which was incredible. Getting to see that bread a basket, like that basket of bread was like a full circle experience for me. But even then, I was like, yeah, that's what I want to paint. Like I like that realism.
So that was really influential then. That was the foundation, would you say, to your
Yeah,
artistic journey?
I think so, because like even going to like the first trips I made to the Met, you know, and I'm in the American wing and I saw like William Harnet's work, who is like the OG of American trompe painting, like from like around 1880, 1890. He's amazing. He's like the old violin hanging on the wall, that guy. You know, but seeing that for the first time, I was like, oh my God, like how can a person do that? You know, it's like I had no idea, you know, and then you start seeing like the Dutch masters and you see all of that just incredible high level realism. And to me, it just seemed like I couldn't believe it, like a person could do that.
So it sounds as if it was the male artists then, the masters. It was all men that were inspiring you.
Well, because like that's funny because, you know, I had to come up with a list of my favorite female artists.
Mm.
And come to find out, there were a lot of women that were also painting at a very high level, but you don't really hear about them. You know, that's a problem for me. And like my list of famous artists are like, you look at somebody like Audrey Flack, who I actually got to meet. She was a huge inspiration for me, you know, because she was like back in the 70s in New York City, it's like this sausage party of men doing photorealism, and then there's Audrey Flack, you know, who was pivotal in really starting that movement. I loved her work. I got to see some of her work at the Mizell Gallery. She had a solo show there back in the 90s. And a man that I was studying with was friends with her, and I got to go to the opening and meet her in person. I even got her to sign my Audrey Flack book, which was a big deal. You know, so she was really inspirational. Or you look at somebody like Rachel Roish. I just went to Boston to see her retrospective. She's amazing. You know, she painted until she was something like 85 years old. She was, as far as the Dutch flower painters, I mean, she's one of the top three. Like her, Van Huysum, de Heem, you know, at the time she was like a rock star. She had 11 children, you know. I mean, it's just like I don't know how you had 11 children painted and lived to be that age, you know, in the 1700s. I'm like, that's a good trick. That's a
Yes,
really good trick. Yeah. But, you know, it turns out women are there. You
they
just
absolutely
you don't
are.
hear about them.
And that's why we're here today
Yeah,
with
because
this podcast.
I think like we need to talk about that more. Like we should be talking more about Audrey Flack because she made a huge contribution to realism in the
Yeah.
arts. So
So many of them did, without the benefit of social media and free marketing and all the rest of it. Yeah. And they are very much in the shadows, which is why today we hope to bring you all out from the shadows. I'm curious what then being a woman in the arts means to you.
um, I just want to make sure that like women are heard from, you know, that we're not marginalized and not kind of like pushed back. You know, it's like that women are given the same opportunities. You know, it's like if I do a group, I mean, this is just between us, right? But it's like if I do a group show or I'm invited to do a group show and I see that there's a roster of 30 people and there's three women, I'm kind of like, really? Really? You can't think of anybody else who might want to do this. And, I mean, I guess by the same token, it's like, I feel like people at the top of their game should be chosen. Like if we're talking about this fictional show, like I would never want to be chosen as like, well, she's a female, so we'll include her, even though maybe she's not as good as I don't want that either. I want to be chosen on merit, but it's like sometimes I feel like, I like to see women getting the same chance and same visibility. It's important. It's like I feel like we should be thinking that way.
Well, you only have to think about all the women artists that there are, not just in this country, I mean, the world now,
Yeah.
doing so many different things in the arts. It's mind blowing, and it's important that they are elevated. All of you are elevated. But let's go back to school, because you went then from North Carolina to the big city, to the Big Apple. What prompted that decision as to where you would go next?
Well, I really wanted to go to school in Boston.
Close.
Yeah, Boston was where I wanted to be. I did not want to be in New York City. I was scared to death to move to New York City. And there was a cellist there that I really wanted to study with. And he only took, I think, 3 students a year because he had a huge concert schedule. And I think I must have played for him 5 or 6 different times. I'd fly to Boston or I'd meet him in New York and I'd play for him. And he kept telling me, he's like, you're great. You're great. He's like, I wish I could take you as a student, but I just don't have time or room. And finally, he was like, you have a lot of pluck. You're going to go far. Quit following me around, and I can't take you. We're done. And so I ended up getting a full scholarship to Manhattan School of Music. And so that made that choice. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to New York.
Sounds
So
like you were the border collie nipping at his ankles.
yeah, probably. I'm sure he's like, what is wrong with this girl? Like, why is she following me around? Yeah, so that's how I ended that's how that choice was made for me.
And how
So
did that
yeah.
feel once
Oh,
you
I
were
love New
settled in?
York.
Did
Oh,
you?
I loved it. I mean, it was a little scary at first, it was a little intimidating, and I lived in a really sketchy neighborhood and didn't have any money, and like, had that kind of thing. I mean, it had its own challenges, but I loved New York. It's like God, everything you could possibly want is there. And this was back in the 90s, and there were amazing art supply stores. I could go down to Pearl Paint, which was like 5 stories, and then there are like 3 more outbuildings. It was incredible. It's like just kind of that level of saturation, or being able, for a while, I lived on the Upper West Side, and I could walk through Central Park to the Met. And I went like every day. I
Well,
would sketch, I would walk through the park, I would go to the Met. I had a membership, so I could just walk in anytime I wanted. And that's incredible to have that kind of experience.
you were the kid in the candy store, weren't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and I studied everywhere in New York, like everywhere. It's like, um, God, I, literally, I think every art school there except Pratt, because that was an actual college and you had to have a portfolio. But if they would let me in, I would go and take classes there. So it was incredible.
How was your portfolio shaping up there by now?
I kind of had a weird experience where I did a lot of drawing. Like I felt a little overwhelmed by painting because I didn't know what I was doing. And remember too, I'm old. This was before the internet. I couldn't just jump online and like go watch a video on YouTube about how to paint, or these are the paints it's like, I don't know. There was a little bit of a mystery there. So I did a lot of drawing. I did a lot of life draw, working from the model, all that kind of stuff. I was a little intimidated by paint, and I didn't really start painting until I studied with my last teacher. So I did a lot of cast drawing and very academic stuff, but not so much the painting until I started studying with Michael Aviano.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was amazing. So I'd studied with all these different places and people, and met all these people, and I've done cast drawing, and which I highly recommend. That's a great idea. It's doing a big charcoal drawing of a white cast with sort of a dark background. So you learn values in drawing and modeling and form and all those things.
This was a
Um,
6 year apprenticeship with him, so you were seriously committed.
yeah, and I had to like talk my way in. Michael was like, people would talk about Michael, but nobody really knew him. Like I would meet people and they were like, oh, there's this guy on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. He's kind of reclusive. He only takes like 6 students. You sit in his living room and draw. And I was like, what the hell is this? This sounds weird. But everybody that I talked to, they're like, oh, he's amazing. Like he's literally like this like painting guru. He knows everything. And eventually I ended up meeting a guy who was taking classes with him. So, and I, this is horrible to say, but Michael loved classical music. And so I went up there and I was like, I just played all my cello cards. I'm like, look, I used to be a cellist. I don't have much of a portfolio. I'm trying to learn how to draw. And I think he felt sorry for me because he's like, well, I love cello and, clearly you've tried to make this big pivot in your life. So I'm going to take pity on you and I'm going to let you have one class.
Did you take your cello with you?
I did not, but I wore one of my big cello dresses, like one of those big Laura Ashley numbers. Michael was very gay. This wasn't any kind of weird. I just want to make that clear in case somebody's like, ooh, subtext is kind of gross. Was not like that at all. So yeah, he gave me one class and I was able to gradually work up into having a full-time roster with him. And he taught me everything I knew about painting. And he also taught Munsell color theory. He had been trained by a very famous artist named Frank J. Riley, who had taught at the Art Students League during the 40s and 50s, who had taken the Munsell palette and sort of made it a very practical teaching tool for color theory for artists. So Michael taught Munsell. So I grew up learning that, and that was really my first painting experience was with Michael.
Was that after or before that you spent time with James Child then?
This was right after. I was sort of with James and Michael sort of right at the same time. I was with James, and as that was winding down, somebody came to study with James who was also studying with Michael. So I was able to just kind of hop over because at that point I'd done a lot of cast drawing and I was like, I think I got to move on. So, and Michael's program was very step by step. There was a whole curriculum and you had to do each exercise before you could move on to the next. And it was all very, 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 very structured. So
So
I
this
just,
presumably this was in daylight hours because you mentioned that you were also waiting tables too.
mhm. We,
Yeah.
yeah, Michael would only teach on Fridays and Saturdays, and it was all day, but 2 days a week. That was it. So the rest of the week, I'm waiting tables, I'm doing whatever I'm doing. I was able to kind of work out a deal at the restaurant where I didn't have to work on Fridays and Saturdays, so I could go and study with him.
We had an artist on the show recently who suggested that everyone should wait tables in their life.
Well, Harvard Business School came up with this. This is the way I remember it. There was a guy who was like a headhunter who had gone to Harvard, a big muckety-muck business guy. And he said that somebody who had waited tables learned more life skills and was a better thinker on their feet because they could handle pressure, they could organize, they could multitask. And that when he interviewed people for these like Fortune 500 jobs, and also you learn about, working with the public and not being a jerk, and it's like if you had to bust tables, you had to deal with some probably difficult situations, you know?
We're also dealing with different people and
Mhm.
personalities and knowing that customer relations were key. You couldn't just go off script and
Yeah,
might get fired. So important character development, I would thought.
I think so.
Yeah.
You learn a lot doing that,
Mm.
working with like, just so many skills come out of that. But the way I remember it is he said that that was always something that he asked people, and he would much rather hire somebody who had that experience than someone who didn't.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But
So,
meanwhile, you were dreaming, and you were going to bed of dreaming of what you were going to be when you grow up, right?
oh yeah, I
What were
couldn't
those
wait to
dreams
like
looking like?
I just wanted to be able to paint, full time. And I thought for like 5 minutes, I'm like, well, I don't know if I can make a living doing this, so I better be an illustrator. And this was way before I got to Michael. Because like when I would see illustration work, it was very realistic. It's like, and I love Norman Rockwell. So I was like, oh, maybe then I'll be guaranteed an income. And I thought about doing that for, I don't know, 30 minutes. And then I was like, no, I've ruined my life. I've like jumped like out of the pot and into the fire. I'm just going for it. Like there's no point in trying to make a safe art career with like a 401k and health insurance. Screw it at this point. I'm all in.
What did that all in look like, though, in terms of making a living?
Yeah, it was like for me, the model that I kind of saw early on was you sell your work at a gallery. And so that's been the model that I've followed. Things are a little different now because now there's the internets. So, you probably have some more options as far as selling work or building a clientele and that kind of thing. But back in the day, like you sold your work through an art gallery, which has been a great model for me. And I've had wonderful gallery relationships. That's all good. I don't want that to seem like that's a negative in any way, but that was always the model. Art, money, success equals fine art gallery.
And now most of your work is gallery work, is it?
Oh yeah, I make almost 98% of my sales through galleries. I do occasionally, I'll do a private commission if it's someone that I know or I have a relationship with, I'll do that. But I tend to, with the internet, you never know. It's like I have a lot of questions, that I have to ask before I want to do something one-on-one with somebody that I don't physically know. So
You've
gotta be
had a very
careful.
strong academic training or foundation to your career, Natalie. I'm wondering how you react to the prospects now, well, the reality of AI.
You know what? I mean, yeah, AI is going to cause problems, right? Like there are people that are going to lose their jobs, right? If you're like a needlepoint designer or, a graphic designer, and there's a lot of things where AI is going to probably take your job. By the same token, like I also see how it could be a very creative tool. I don't feel threatened by it because I don't think AI is going to be able to make the kind of work that I make.
Mm-hmm.
Like and I think in some ways, like AI may make the type of work I make more valuable because it is made by hand and it is created out of my head. It's like that's a premium, that can't be reproduced. So I kind of see the good and the bad. I mean, I've played around with like Midjourney a little bit, just ideas. It's like, oh, I have an idea for a painting and I want a girl with like tentacles coming out of her hair. What does that look like? And it's like just kind of playing around like for ideas or themes or like storytelling. Um, and I kind of try to look at both sides of this too. It's like there's probably a dark side to this as well, but I'm pretty open. It's like I'm pretty open to most things. I don't feel like there's a lot of rules on how you do something or how you make your art. And like I'm kind of like, you do you. If that works for you and you want to make stuff out of AI, okay. Like I'm fine with that.
It sounded from what you mentioned earlier that R&D is an important part of the process for you, and the painting then becomes the chore of applying it all. So where does that all begin? Where's the catalyst for this? Is it the middle of the night you wake up with an idea?
It is like all the time. Yeah. I mean, like I like to go walk in the morning. That's always a good time, but like I just kind of try to keep my mind open and I'll get like the weirdest ideas that just pop in. Like I'll hear a song lyric or I'll see like a stick on the ground or like weird, it just kind of
But
like
are they weird?
filters.
I mean, as an artist, they're not really weird, are they? Because our inspiration can come from so many different sources.
Yeah, mine, I tend to just be very open and think of it as like a filter. Like one of my favorite paintings I ever did was a piece of scrap cardboard that had been ripped off of a box that I literally did nothing to it. It had tape all over it and all this weird shape. It was shaped like the state of Tennessee. And I just put Scrabble tiles on the back of it that says, I like nice things. This is only temporary. It was one of my favorite pieces I've ever done. Right. And it was because I found this piece of cardboard. So it's like I just try to stay open and be a filter to whatever. I have a huge inspiration board in my studio that makes me look like a serial killer. I'm like this, if I just had some red string connecting stuff,
Right.
people be like,
Yeah. If the police were
um,
to find it after a local murder, they would, come looking
they'd be
for
like,
it.
we have some
Yeah.
questions. But it's because I think anything can really inspire a painting. I mean, lyrics, song lyrics, poetry, things like that, I find very inspiring sometimes because I love using text in my work. whether that's like a Scrabble tile or me writing on it or whatever it is. I love text. And so that's always like, I actually just this week have been working. I have a solo show coming up in the fall. And so I've been like culling ideas into a folder to kind of like, and I was surprised this week. It's supposed, I'm trying to do something that's a little more still lifey, kind of more Dutch still lifey this year. And but I was shocked how much text is in that folder. I was like, that's a lot of text.
Well, are you a writer or a reader or both?
I love to read. Yeah, that's probably like one of those things that I do to re just unwind a little bit. Yeah. So
That's
I'm not a
your
writer.
time. The reading is your time.
I like to read. Yeah, I find reading is really a great way to kind of turn off a little bit. Yeah.
What would we find on your nightstand?
Oh gosh. I tend to read a lot of fiction. I love sci-fi. I love fantasy. Yeah, yeah, I do not read nonfiction ever. Like don't give me any nonfiction. I don't want it. I was in a book group for a while and they were like, "We're gonna read Team of Rivals." And I'm like, "I'm not doing that." So, yeah.
Because
I want to be entertained. I want to be entertained. I've read Harry Potter probably 78 times. Yeah. I love Harry Potter. So like, but things like that, I find that really fun.
let
Yeah.
me introduce you to someone who has never read Harry Potter.
I mean,
Someone said to me, I'm probably the only person in the first world that has not read it.
but are you culturally familiar with Harry Potter?
Naturally, of
Like,
course, yes,
yeah, you know the
of course,
story.
of course. But have I read the books and seen the film? No, I haven't. But someone did say to you who was a fan, said, I really envy you the first time you do read it. So now the pressure is on, because I'm complete opposite to you, Natalie. I read mostly nonfiction because I like to
See,
learn something when I'm reading. So that,
you want to
yeah.
be educated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
no,
yeah,
I get it.
maybe, yeah, trying to catch up here a little bit.
I think you're gonna love those books. And yeah, I do. I love those. They're like kind of imprinted on me.
So it comes to music. You did send me your playlist. It's really eclectical. There's a wide variety. I'm wondering if we were in the car and did some car karaoke, would you sing? And what would you sing?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I'll sing.
Taylor Swift.
Badly, but I that has been a new thing for me. I gotta be honest about that. I used to be like Taylor Swift. I mean, I grew up like 90s. I'm like a Gen X, Nirvana, Doc Martin. I was like, I don't know about Taylor Swift. Like, I don't get it. And my best friend has three teenage girls who are like huge Taylor Swift fans, of course, and they went to the Eras tour and all that. And like, I guess she's just started crossing my radar more and more. And I would read all this great stuff about her. How smart she was and what a great businesswoman and how she took care of the people and the more I read about her, I'm like, she sounds like just an awesome human being. And maybe I should listen to some of her music. And so I have a Spotify account, and a couple of years ago, I started listening to it. And at one point, I listened to every single album, every album in order on Spotify. It took 15 hours. This was before the last two came out, so now it's probably even longer than that. But I like her.
I
I
am
like her.
impressed with your dedication to learning her portfolio. That is
I like her a lot. I
exceptional.
have a lot of respect for Taylor. Yep, I'm
I'm
a
with
fan.
you. I have a lot of respect for her as a businesswoman. Yeah,
Yep.
totally, totally. Well, thanks to Cami Mendlick, who's going to get a shout out here on the show because she was a recent guest. I have joined the Brandy Carlisle party.
Yeah, I have read a little bit about her too. I'm also very interested in her. Yeah, I like her a lot too.
Talking about likes and dislikes, then, how about pieces of art that, let's say, you could only have one piece of art from an artist whose work you admire? What would that be, and where would you hang it?
You know what? I've really had the Dutch masters on my brain lately.
Uh-huh.
Like I just have been very immersed in that. So I'm gonna say there's a Deheem floral still life that's at the National Gallery that I would pick. And full disclosure, I did just put a giant wall mural of it up in my guest room.
Okay.
So Yeah, because I think I could probably look at that painting forever. I mean, just it's one of those big Dutch still lifes with all the little water droplets and the little bugs and the little tiny. I mean, it's just like I think I could look at that forever.
Because you love the detail, don't you? I mean, oh, clearly from your work.
I like the virtuosity. Lot of respect. I mean, I would pick either that because I maybe I'll pick another one. Another one of my like desert island paintings that I have yet to see because it went into a private collection and I may never get to see it for real is the Alma Tadema, the Roses of Heliogabalus.
Okay.
Gabulus, Gabulus. I don't know if you know that painting. It was in London, but now it's private collection. Is this wall-sized painting of one of the emperors drowning all of the sycophants in rose petals. It's very dark, but it's just this flurry of rose petals and these people suffocating, and it's very neoclassical, Victorian, a beautiful painting.
Was there, when you look back at your career, Natalie, a pivotal moment, a milestone that really um, cast your future, if you will, in a way that, this is the turning point?
Well, I had art. There's one painting that I made that really kind of put me on the path that I'm on now. And Michael Aviano was a beautiful painter, very inspired by Rembrandt. So very like a painter's painter. And when I got out of school and while I was studying with him, I really emulated that. When I first started selling my work, it was a lot of still life. It was a lot of like fruit and flowers and that kind of thing. And, I was making that because I'm emulating my teacher. Like that's what I would see as realism. That's what maybe would sell. So I'm making that type of work. And I made this one painting, it was a really pretty. I mean, even now I look back and I'm like, it's not bad. It was a really pretty floral, blue and white vase, lots of mums, really pretty. It won this big art competition. And, I was like, oh, like I must be sort of set, had like a pear on a plate with a knife and a napkin. I mean, you kind of get the vibe. At the exact same time I made that, I had been to Texas and I was visiting my aunt, and she had cleaned out a relative's house and they had a bar in the basement. And there was this sign tacked to the wall, and it was orange and black, and it was an eye chart. And it says BULLSHIT. And as you get lower in the thing, there's an eyeball on the bottom. And you realize the whole thing spells out bullshit. And in very tiny little type across the bottom, it says, if you can read this, you're too damn close. And I'm like, can I have that? So she gave it to me. I took it home and I put it on a board with a pair of those eyeglasses on the springs with the springy eyeballs and a ribbon, and I painted it. And I was like, that is the funniest thing I've ever seen. This is what I want to do. I want to make more stuff like this that's like whimsical and fun, and maybe there's some profanity, and there's definitely text, and there's the virtuosity of painting eyeballs on a spring. And I was like, I think that this is the thing I'm going to make from
Do you
now
like
on.
to be outrageous in a way? Do you like to really sort of impact people when they walk into the gallery and they'll go, whoa?
Well, I wouldn't say outrageous, but like I think with my work, I love trompe l'oeil, but I don't do like grapes hanging on a wall. Like for me, I'm like, oh Jesus, why bother? Like, do we need more of that? I mean, sorry if anybody's listening and they're like, but I paint grapes on a wall. I'm sorry. But it's like, what does that really bring to us? What does that really mean contextually? It's like you can mimic themes. I try to bring something a little fresher. I like to take trompe l'oeil and kind of bring my own thing to it. It's like my own sense of whimsy or joy or humor. Or, I made a painting. Can I say bad words on this podcast?
Certainly.
I mean, it's actually on the painting. I did a painting a couple of years ago that's the backside of a painting. So it's the stretcher bars, and there's a little landscape in the middle of it. And there's Scrabble tiles that say fucks falling out. I've painted them so they look like they're tumbling out of it. Like one is like barely hanging into the lower corner. And the title is Behold My Field of Fucks and See That It Is Barren. And I'm like, yeah, that's my vibe. Like it's trompe l'oeil, it's really well painted. It looks like maybe it's real, and there's a little bit of a reverence to it. But
Is that
again,
on your is that on your headstone then as a
I'd be fine with that. Yeah.
fine with that? And of course, it also would be rebellious, religiously rebellious.
I mean, that's not true. I give lots of fucks. I care about lots of things very passionately. I wouldn't say that I don't care, but I think like a painting like that, I mean, and I did call the gallery and I'm like, hey, are you okay with like, are you gonna hang it? Because like if this is gonna be a not suitable for work situation, I will not send it.
This is for grown-ups only.
It is for grown-ups only. And of course, like they sold it out of the box. There was somebody standing in the gallery when they unpaint, like, I mean, pro tip, profanity sells. But yeah, I think like that is the kind of stuff that I like to make paintings like that are whimsical. But I wouldn't say they like push boundaries. Like I'm not I think there is a lot of darkness out in the world, and I don't want to add to that. Like I like things that are fun. I don't need like heavy, messagey. You know what I'm saying? That's not really me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What would
and there's
James and Michael say about your art and your development as an artist now?
well, James is dead, so I don't know. He probably wouldn't like any of it. He was a very classical guy. He'd be like, I don't like it. But yeah, I think Michael is still alive. Michael is like 96, 95. He is still working. He has an iPad and a stylus and is like still doing stuff. So I think he would be happy for me. I think he'd be like, good for you. Like you managed to like make a living at it. And I think maybe some of your stuff is a little tacky, but good on you.
Was there ever a moment when you thought, I'm not going to make it. Art's not for me.
Um, there was a very dark period after the housing recession when that blew up in 2008, where I thought, huh, this is gonna be really tricky. Because I'd sort of started selling my work in the late 90s, kind of even when I was in school, I was starting to sell stuff. And I'd done really well. I'd made money and like bought a house and like I had money. I didn't make a lot of money, but I was good. I had health insurance, I could pay my rent. It was all right. Um, and when that happened, I was like, okay. I'm not going to sell anything this year. All right. And it's like, but at the end of the day, I don't have any skills. Like I don't even know how to fold sweaters. I can't go work at the Gap. My fallback is to mix paint at Home Depot. I would be good at that.
Oh, wait,
So
tables.
I'm too old.
Yeah.
I can't be on my knees for an 8-hour shift. And I'm too saucy. At this point, I'd be like, I don't have time for your crap. No, no, don't tip me. We're done here. I think I'm way too old and saucy for that now. But yeah, so it's like I have to make it work because what am I going to do? At this point, like I'm not going back to school. So, yeah, I think like just kind of having your back against the wall. But yeah, that was a dark period, and where it's just like you kind of realize the economic uncertainty of
Absolutely.
being self-employed and making something that is a luxury item that people do not need to have.
What would your parents say about how you developed as an artist?
Oh, I think they'd be so happy.
Yeah.
I mean, I had already had some successes by the time my dad died. I already had a very solid gallery representation and career. I mean, but I think they'd be really happy. I think they'd be happy that I'm doing what I wanted to do. That like that all kind of worked out. So, and I think like if I were to go, I think 20-year-old me would be like, oh, wow, where it's like where I'm like, am I really going to be able to like learn how to draw and paint to like where I am now? I think 20-year-old me would be very, very impressed. Like, oh, it worked out. It's all good.
Well, often family is a good reality check, and I'm wondering what your sister Edith says about your work.
Oh, she loves my work. I mean, she has to say that, but no, she's
She a
very
collector?
happy. She has a bunch of my paintings. She does. She has a very personal piece I made after our mother died. She's got that, and then she's got some other things. And yeah, if I make something she really loves, I did I have a series that I do of toast paintings, which are kind of like icons on toast, or the icons I want to see on toast. So not Jesus, but like the last one I did was Dolly Parton, which yeah, give me that on a piece of toast. It's really cute. And she's like, I really love that. I want to hang that above my toilet in my powder room. And so I'll make her prints. I'm like, here you go. Here's Dolly. Yeah, I think she's really happy for me. And one of the reasons that I just moved back to North Carolina is she's here. So
Oh,
she's up in Asheville. So I see her like at least once a month. We get together. She comes to town. So it's fun.
well, we come to the fun part of the show now, haven't we?
The fun part.
Yeah, when I get to ask you about your dinner party guests and who you would
Yeah.
invite. You've been thinking about it.
Yes. Yes. And I was warned to be prepared for this question. This is not off the cuff. And it's hard. The dinner party question's hard because I could imagine so many dinner and because it's also got to be what's gonna be a good dinner party. It's not just six
Mm.
people I want to talk to. It's got to be how's that interaction gonna go? And we did talk on the phone prior to this, and you did let me know that I could have it catered. So I'm having this catered.
You are,
We
but
we
so my question then, Natalie, is do you enjoy cooking? Are you a chef? I mean, if it wasn't such a large and important dinner party, do you enjoy cooking?
if it were not a large and important dinner party, I love cooking. Like I really do. And I love having people like come over and just like sit at the kitchen island and like make food and hang out and have a glass of
So
wine. That's one of
kitchen
my
supper
favorite.
rather than a formal dinner
That's me.
party,
But
right?
for
I know
this,
you have a
no,
dining room now, so you're
I do
prepared
have
for
dining room.
this.
But for this would be different because I'm going to have this catered because I want to be able to focus on my guests. I do not want to be like worrying about like, did I get the souffle out of the oven and did the beef Wellington like fried or crisp? I don't want to do that. So
So this
I'm
is not a kitchen supper, then. This is a formal
no,
dining room.
this would be formal dining room.
Okay.
Yes. This would be formal dining. I would get this catered. I would get like some incredible sushi and sake flights to be paired with that, and we would go full on Asian. So, because I think that would be fun because like you don't have to worry about eating everything right away. You can kind of eat when you want and kind of select the things you want and do little courses and lots of sake pairings. So I think that would be super elegant. So I kind of went through my list, and there are people that I think would be a fun group, and there are also people that were inspirational to me. So I definitely would invite Stephen King. I love Stephen King's books. I think he's incredibly brilliant and creative and a very hard worker. And he wrote a book called On Writing. I don't know if you've read this book, but it's about the creative process, and I think everybody should read it. So it's not about painting, but it's very much about painting. So I think Stephen King, amazing. And he's been through a lot. I mean, he got like run over by a truck a couple of years ago and almost died. So he's had a very wide range of experiences. I think he'd be great. Michelle Obama, not Barack, because I kind of feel like that was the power behind the throne. I mean, I love Barack Obama, but I think Michelle would be a lot more fun dinner guest. I think she's just funnier and sharper. And I think she would be a delight. And she's a great dresser. So like I think she would have some incredible stories to tell. And I feel like she was as much a player in that administration as he was. So I don't feel like I'm missing anything. So definitely her. Um, I'm gonna get Frida Kahlo, of course, because she oh, I didn't know that much about her. And I know you're thinking, really? I mean, like I knew about her, but I didn't like know about her. And I listened to like a 27-part podcast. I don't know if you've ever listened to Art Hole's podcast.
But she would be right up your boulevard, wouldn't she?
She is, but I didn't know any of this stuff about her until I listened to this podcast because it really is a deep dive, really into sort of it made it I was able to connect with her on a level I don't think I would have just reading a book or art history. It just made her so much more personal to me and her story and just absolutely I would have her there because I think she's a brilliant creative mind and she was a heavy drinker and just sounds like a lot of fun. I think she might even bring a monkey. I think it'd be good. Bring the monkey. I picked Mozart because Mozart also incredibly brilliant, incredibly funny, whimsical guy, child prodigy. Like he saw some shit. I think he would be super fun. Um, and I don't know. Mozart, like I just think he goes with everything. I think he'd be great. I would pick Amy Poehler because I love her. She's a comedian. I think if things started getting slow in the conversation, she could kind of I think she would be great, like grist for the mill. I think she would kind of pull people in and get them to tell great stories and kind of get them to talk amongst themselves. I think she would be an excellent facilitator. And my last one, and this is kind of sad, and I wasn't sure if I should put this in here because I didn't want to like downer note. But my best friend died in 2018, and I'm going to pick him. So his name is Boo Scherf, and he's very much like an Oscar Wilde type. So I was thinking about Oscar Wilde, and then I thought, well, this is an imaginary dinner party, living or dead. So I'm going to pick Boo because I haven't gotten to talk to him in a long time. So I would pick him. And he was incredibly brilliant. I mean, he's one of the smartest people I ever knew. So he was a double bassist that I met my first day at School of the Arts when I was 15 and had been my best friend my whole life. So I'm going to have to pick him too. So that would be my dinner party.
And wine, would you select the wine? What would you do with it?
I love sake.
Okay.
So I just feel like a sake flight, sort of like a little sake flight for each course would be really nice.
Dessert?
Oh, you know what? I'd probably have like a giant chocolate thing, which has nothing to do with sake or sushi, but I love chocolate. Like I literally can't have it in the house. I love chocolate. So yeah.
And have you thought about where they're going to sit? Is this going to be a rectangular table, round table?
Oh, round.
Who do you want to sit by? Who do you want sitting either side of you?
Probably Boo. I'd probably want Boo.
On
Yeah.
one side and the other side?
I'm gonna have to put Amy Poehler over there because I'm gonna need her help to keep things going. I'm gonna need a comedian over there so that she can just interface with everybody. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And on the other side, you? On your left? If he's on the right, who's on your left?
I'd probably pick Michelle Obama.
Ah.
Yeah, I think she'd be very supportive and very like, kind of like, you're doing great. I feel like she would, I think she'd be very supportive.
What's on your bucket list now then? And where can we see your work? You mentioned you've got a big exhibition coming later in the year. Where can we see your work?
Yeah, I show with lots of different galleries, but I've been with Meyer Gallery in Santa Fe for 30 years. I've done 27 solo shows with them. So I have a solo show coming up this fall that I'm excited about.
Shout out to a previous guest, Megan Sider.
Yes, she is also showing at Meyer. Yeah, so that is going to happen in the fall. And I am also just kind of branching out into some new stuff where I'm doing a lot of recordings that I'm putting up for free on my website. Some are for sale, most are for free, just sort of like quick little instructional things, or hey, here's things I like, or just kind of art related stuff. I love Instagram and posting on Instagram. It's super fun. I enjoy social media and I love making reels. But I was kind of like, 30 seconds is not a lot of time. So I've been doing these sort of long-winded videos that I'm putting up, and that's kind of a new thing for me. I'm very excited about that too.
On your
So
website or
mhm.
YouTube?
They're both. I kind of you can get there from either place.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I have going on.
Well, you mentioned then now you moved back and you are actually, you told me, sitting in your art library, which I love because you and your partner have this wonderful gallery. He's also an artist, and there's a little story behind that because you are in a new place in your life now.
I'm in a very new place in my life. Yeah, this is like not something I've talked about on social media because it's like, whoo, dumpster fire. Yeah, I left a 32-year marriage and decided to make some really big changes in my life and met a wonderful person, and we just bought a house in Charlotte. So I am back in the South.
And Johnny is
And
also an artist.
he is. And the neat thing about that is meeting somebody who has the same goals as you, which is we should buy a really big house and turn it into a giant art studio. And I'm like, yes, this sounds like a great idea. So yeah, we did that. We found this really awesome house. It's a little north of Charlotte, and it has just a tremendous amount of studio space. We took the media room, which was on the second floor, which is about 600 square feet, and that's the main studio. And then we have three other rooms. So we have a workroom for like paint mixing, panel preparation, color charts, all that sort of stuff. We've got another room that is prop storage, photography, filming. And then we have a home office up there too, which has got all of this just photography equipment and printers and scanners and just like more cables than you can imagine. So it's been great. I mean, I haven't met very many people who's like, let's put a giant mural of Daheen's floral painting in the guest room. I'm like, sounds great. Let's do that.
What's it like?
So
Well, I was going to ask, what's it like living and working with an artist? Because that is a whole 200% there.
yeah, well, you know what? I got to tell you, like back in the day, I was like, I am not going to get involved with another painter, right? Like there's only room for one painter in this family. That's a horrible idea, because it's like, I think there could always be a little like jealousy or I don't, it just, it seemed like a very complicated, it seemed like a complicated dynamic. And the great thing about Johnny is that he's loves to draw and paint. He loves the Dutch master stuff and Rubens pretty much exclusively, whereas I tend to like more modern. We like the same things, but we also have very different interests. He loves to paint, but he has no interest in showing his work or working with a gallery. He just loves to paint for painting's sake, you know? So he had a wonderful career as a electrical engineer and lighting designer. So, he brings all this stuff to the table. And, when I met him, he also uses Munsell color theory. So it's like, well, so we have a lot of Venn diagram overlap, but we also have a lot of things that are very separate. So yeah, it's cool. It's kind of like the best of both worlds.
It sounds like you've arrived at a place where you're most comfortable now and the energy is good in every direction.
It is really good. It's like, I got to tell you, I did not see at this point in my life that I would be getting divorced and moving back to the South. That was not on my bingo card. But now that it's here, I'm like, yeah, that was good. That was a good change. That was good. Well done. Check. So, yeah.
Any other boxes to check?
No, I mean, I gotta say things are pretty good. I mean, I'm fixing to hunker down here for the, next 8 months and paint that show, but yeah, it's good. Things are good. I mean, where's some wood? Let me find some.
Knock on some wood.
Yeah.
Any travel plans?
Yeah, well, I don't get to leave the house until the show is painted.
Okay.
So,
Oh, yeah. You're very
yeah,
disciplined about that, I imagine. You go in there and you are focused.
I work like about 10 hours a day. I mean, that's because the work I do takes a long time. So it's like if I worked banker's hours, I never get anything done. We do want to go to Amsterdam. That is probably the next big trip we're taking to the Rijksmuseum to go see like the flower paintings, the big Dutch flower stuff in person. And we're probably going to go to like Delft and Antwerp and do the whole little Dutch tour. So very excited about that.
With those similar interests in art, then where do you get your validation? Is it when you finish something and you show it to him, or you show it to the world?
He's really good for that, and he's also really good because I did a painting, I think last year. I don't do a lot of still life painting anymore. And the perspective, it was these champagne glasses. And he was like, that's really bad, right? He's like, the perspective is awful. And I'm like, it is. And he like mocked it up in Photoshop and sent it to me. And he's like, yeah, it's really bad. He's great for that. He's like I do like his validation a lot. And I gotta say, like, I think validation, as I've gotten older, I care a little less. When I was younger, I cared a lot more about that. I mean, I think for me, validation is probably when people like the work, when people buy the work, when somebody loves something enough to pay money for it and hang it in their home, that feels amazing to me. I feel like I've done my job,
So when they
So I
turn the
think
corner in the gallery and you're standing in the corner and you see them and their reaction to a piece, that means a lot to you.
I mean, that's why I paint. It's like the thing that I love about trompe l'oeil and why I do trompe l'oeil is because there's this shift between expectation and reality. There's always a perception shift with trompe l'oeil. There's a moment where you're not sure and then So that little perception shift is really that is exactly why I do what I do. So when I see people having that perception shift, yeah, that's it.
That's it.
For me. That's my moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Natalie, you mentioned how much you love social media, so remind everyone how they can find you.
Oh yeah, like go find me. I'm in Featherston _fine_art. or you can just put Natalie Featherston in there. It should pop up. And I have a website, which is nataliefeatherston.com. And I just redid that. So there's all kinds of like fun stuff on there. There's like free videos and PDFs and silly stuff. And yeah, so.
And on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm also, I don't, my YouTube thing is so new because I've never really put videos up there. I don't remember my handle, but I think you can, I think I'm in Featherston Fine Art I'm Natalie Featherston Fine Art on there.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you go to my website, it all links up.
And we'll put those links in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
Natalie,
cool.
so. And of
Thank
course,
you. I
you
appreciate
can find
that.
us on social media at the Art Podcast. Don't forget the 2 A's. You can also reach us via email at theartpodcast@gmail.com. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review, because that helps others find the show, because it elevates our profile there. And there are so many thousands of podcasts to listen to. We appreciate you taking time to listen to the Art Podcast. And my thanks again to Natalie Featherston for joining us this week. Natalie, thank you so much. It's been fun to get to know you.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. Like, I love having a captive audience to talk about myself for an hour. So thank you. It's been really fun getting to meet you. So thanks, Chris.
Thank you.